Amendment case over a Texas law requiring age verification for websites with adult content is also yet to be resolved, along with a challenge to a Maryland school district from parents who want to opt out their children from reading some books about same-sex relationships and gender identity. In Washington, Halpern, Fox News.
On Wall Street, not much reaction to the opening call in that Iran conflict. Stock futures up slightly before the opening bell. I'm Dave Anthony. This is Fox News.
Lawrence County depends on WDXE News.
We're not on camera
Since
there, are we?
1951. This is the legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
And it's time for a Friends and Neighbor Hour, I guess.
Hey, how about
Good
that?
way to do it. Keith Durham's in the house. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Thanks for having me today.
Well, thanks for volunteering to come in. Yeah, I volunteered you last night late.
Well, that's fine. I was going to be here today anyway to make a new commercial.
Yeah.
And so I'm in studio, so I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead and step in.
Are you growing a beard now?
No, you know, I have one on and off, and it's most depending on how lazy I am versus it takes me about 3 minutes to shave, and I don't have that kind of time in the morning.
Sometimes.
I hate the act of shaving, though. I get. I don't know. I dread it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I don't know why I do.
Well,
that.
I have worn a beard for many years. My oldest daughter just had a birthday.
Yeah.
And she has, only for one brief period, she's ever even seen me without a beard.
Yeah.
And
I can't remember ever seeing you without a beard.
And I don't really have what I consider a great beard, but I've always had one. But you know, even with a beard, you still have to shave.
Yeah.
I shave, you know, under. Of course,
Yeah.
I need it now, but I keep a line, you know,
Yeah.
shaved,
I do the
whatever.
same
So,
thing.
but anyway, she's never seen me hardly without it. I had to shave it once because going to a chemical plant for a site visit, and you could not go in the chemical plant with a beard because you had to take a respirator with you.
I see.
Just in case there was some kind of a chemical accident or whatever, you
Yeah.
could throw that thing on. They wouldn't let you wear a beard. So that was one of the requirements if you were going to be in that plant. And it really aggravated
It
me.
should have been a warning sign that you may not even want to go in there.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't really happy about it as far as having to shave my beard either. But anyway, grew it right back, and hadn't had it off in probably 40 some odd years.
Wow, so I go through spells. I didn't have a beard 2 weeks ago. I shaved 2 weeks ago. And
Yeah.
So, and then I shaved for about a week, and then I got tired of doing that, so I started doing it.
Well, you know, most guys anymore have. It's kind of in style, I guess, to have a little bit of a shadow. You know,
Yeah.
not a keep it trimmed down pretty close shave or whatever. Not a shave, but anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. But they have that like you've got today.
Yeah.
Like you've got today.
Yeah.
Did you ever have the barber shave with the straight razor shave?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's as close as it gets.
Oh, you know, and you know, Mr. Brown used to do that. And,
Yeah.
He would shave your neck every time with a straight razor.
Yeah.
Every time you got.
You ever
a
had the
haircut.
full face straight razor
Yeah.
shave? All
Yeah,
that?
but it's I don't like it.
You don't?
No,
Does it make you nervous?
I don't know. It's just weird. To me, it's just weird.
Weird having somebody shave you, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see it done very much anymore, though.
No, you don't.
I don't even know if you can get it
If they
done.
do it right, they tug your face in about 80 different directions, you know, while they're shaving.
Yeah, they pull on your face and all that. Yeah. Well, I guess they're slicking you down nice and close.
I guess so.
Anyway. Well, I invited you in to talk about anything and everything. Of course, the phone lines will be open if you guys out there want to chime in with us. But with current events being as they are, I thought, well, you know, we ought to just talk about it a little bit. Of course, it's been talked about all over the news. The bombings that were carried out by the U.S. and they were all you got to do is ask, and you can hear a million opinions
absolutely.
as to why we did or what we should have done or what we didn't do or what we did do and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. There's a lot of it I don't know.
Well, you know, Barney Fife got it right back in the 50s or early 60s.
Yeah.
He said, nip it in the bud. You remember that?
Nip it in the, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that, how many years has it been? 1979.
79,
when that regime
78,
took
79,
over.
yeah.
And so it's been over 40 years since, you know, it's been 46 years, I guess, since that regime took over. So if you are 92 years old or younger, more than half of your life, Iran's been acting up over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The Shah of Iran, you remember, that was a big deal.
Yeah, the Shah was actually not a bad guy. And then the Ayatollah came
The
over.
Ayatollah, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, the Shah was in command from like 1925 up to about 1979. And I can't remember their names. Was it Pahlavi or something like that? The Pahlavi?
I don't know, but I saw his son was interviewed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that.
Sometime over the weekend, the Shah of Iran's son,
Okay.
who is in exile,
Yeah, absolutely.
was being interviewed about the events that are taking
So where's he in exile?
I don't remember where they said he was. But there was one of the news shows that was interviewing him.
So they were in New York for a while, and then I think they made their way back to Egypt.
Might have been.
If I can remember correctly.
That
Egypt
probably
gave them
sounds right.
asylum, but that has been going on. They call it a revolution, and it's been going on since the late 70s, and that's where, from day one, America was involved, because the revolutionaries over there saw America as somebody that harbored their enemy, which would have been the Pahlavis, and they had sort of a government structure like England had. They had a monarchy.
Well, I feel like I'm going to get a good education here this morning, because there's a lot of this that I just don't know.
Yeah, so basically they had in '79 they had a revolution of ideas, mostly surrounding around their faith, their faith and their radical faith as Muslims.
Right.
And I guess like it was in the '70s here. I don't remember the '70s much. I was young in the '70s, but I've read up on the subject a little bit. But they wanted. I guess they didn't fit in. They wanted change. If you'd looked at early 1970s or 1950s, 1960s, 1970s Iran, it looked pretty much like any city in America, any industrious city in America. And so I think they had a lot going on, but then these revolutionaries, wanted to set up their own form of government, and that's when the Shah, he left. And he left for medical reasons. He had cancer.
Okay.
And he went to he fled to Egypt first, and then he, through a series of events, came to America and went to take cancer treatments at Cornell University Hospital up there.
Interesting.
And so he was in America for quite some time, and then went to Panama from there, and then back to Morocco, and then ended up in Egypt. So I believe that's where he died, was in Egypt. But ever since that regime took over, and I use the word regime pretty tightly here, because it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
When they took over, a lot of things changed for Iran. Their industrialism changed. The rights for women changed hugely. They became more suppressed. And it took them back even into the 1800s, when women didn't have any rights. And so basically you had a modern country in 1979 that pushed their women back 100 years, and as far as society is concerned. And so you remember they took the hostages that
Yes.
When Jimmy Carter was president, there's some students that was part of that unrest. They saw United States as I guess placating to their former form of government, and taking in the Shah of Iran, and I guess he had made it to New York at that time, and so they took these hostages, American hostages, and they weren't released until I remember that's one of the very first political things I can remember growing up is the Iran hostage crisis, and then when Reagan became president. He was able to get the hostages released, but anyway, they have been terrorizing the world ever since. And why would you not take the opportunity when you have it to rid the world of something like that? I think it's for many years the United States. We have tried for 40 years. So people today are saying, why don't we use diplomacy. Well, we've been trying to use diplomacy for 40 years. Some of the greatest diplomatic minds in America, back in the James Baker days and things like that, some of the greatest diplomatic minds in the world have tried to have peace with Iran, but they will not have it. And it's not like a constitutional thing where they won't have it. It's what they believe, and that's what's tough to conquer is somebody's belief in their faith.
Yeah.
And so it's time to stop the terrorism, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Isn't it them that basically come up with the idea or the term that America is the great Satan? Is that
absolutely.
That's where that came from.
Yeah, absolutely. They come up with that and they promote that and they teach that and preach that. And so, but you know, if you look over the world today and the problems that we're having, like the Houthis over there, who are they getting their stuff from? They're getting it from Iran. You know, the Syrians, where are they getting their stuff from? They're getting it from Iran. You know, they're funneling all that stuff through. And quite ironically, Iran's got a lot of their money from the United States. And
well, let's talk about that.
well, I'll let you lead off.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit? How is it that they have money from or funds or abilities from the United States?
Well, you think, well, this is something that just started, but it's not. I think we got into it a little bit. Was our conversation the other day that we got into it a little bit, the arms for hostages deal?
Oh yeah, we did. We talked about that a little bit.
So as early as Ronald Reagan days, you know, Reagan has had to deal with them, and I guess in short term, before we get into the conversation, the short term of it is that we tried to pay for peace. You know, the diplomatic, when you get into diplomatic talks, there's some kind of money involved somewhere. You know, because they're not like you and I. We're not neighbors, and we can't. Hey, why don't we just leave peaceably next to each other?
Right.
You know, there's some monetary aspect to it.
Sure.
Which I disagree with, and obviously our current president disagrees with.
Yeah, evidently.
And because there was no monetary effort there. But in the past years, we've seen billions of dollars being funneled to Iran.
Yes.
And so what did Iran do with that? They didn't build their economy. They didn't build cities. They didn't build roads. They invested in their what they consider to be their strength through power. And so what they wanted to do, they were on the road to creating a nuclear bomb or something that they could cause mass destruction. I know we've heard that ever since the early 2000s, but that is the reality of what was going on there. And they weren't just trying to generate electricity with those plants. In fact, if you go to Tehran today, they've got electricity there. You know why? Because they didn't blow up the electrical plants.
Yeah.
They blew up the uranium enrichment plants that they were trying to make bombs with.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's not like hospitals or schools don't have power in Iran because we bombed their nuclear facilities. Whereas if you came to the United States and bombed a nuclear facility, we would be out of power because that's what we use our nuclear facilities for. But they were enriching uranium past the point of what it takes to generate electricity. I don't know what that threshold is, but they were way over the threshold of enriching that, which means they were developing that for bombs. And to be critical for the president of the United States to preempt that, I think is the wrong position. I would say that he done the exact right thing. This is something you can't say out loud. Hey, you know, we're. You know, he said, I'm going to give you 2 weeks. But, you know, it was like 24 hours, you know.
Yeah.
But let me diverge a little bit on that. So back in the early 90s, I had the privilege of working for the Department of Defense at the Pentagon, and I was a contractor there and worked in the IT department there. And this is when the first Gulf War broke out, Desert Storm. You remember that?
I do remember.
Even before that, it was Operation Desert Shield, and then it turned into Desert Storm. The Pentagon itself, in one of the lower levels, has, for lack of better words, it's a full-blown shopping mall. You could do anything there. So you have to realize that you got one building that, when I was there, 35,000 people worked in that one building.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, everybody can't go to lunch and, stuff like that, drive their car and go to lunch and come
Sure,
back and
sure.
do anything in a timely manner. So you had all those facilities there, had barbershops and everything like that. But there was no there was no pizzeria down in the commissary, if you know what I mean. So back when the Gulf War,
No pizza?
No
With
pizza.
all the stuff, there's no pizza? Okay.
you remember the day that you went home and you watched CNN and you saw all these bombs, going into Iraq and America was attacking over there. So one of the key things there is that the pizza deliveries for the Pentagon went up, and so they put out at the time. Oh geez, Louise.
Went up as in a lot more ordered.
Yeah, everybody's at the Pentagon. They just order pizza in.
They ordered pizzas, yeah.
So the pizza delivery guys are just bombarding the Pentagon.
Yeah.
So obviously, they put a halt to that, and they got pizza downstairs. Last time I was there, there's a pizzeria downstairs. You can go downstairs and get the pizza or whatever. And but obviously, that trend happened again because I saw that as a headline that pizza orders skyrocketed right before the bombing took place. So if there's one telltale sign that something's going to happen, you watch the pizza deliveries in Washington, D.C. And I thought they'd put a stop to that a long time ago, but obviously people just forget.
No, they're still going to do it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I didn't, can you DoorDash stuff to the Pentagon these days? I guess you can.
I don't know. I see DoorDashes around here quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It happens all the time around here.
It's quite a business.
But even back then, that was all Iranian-backed fighting that was going on and resistance that was going on, and so we have been tolerating this for a long time, and I think it's time for it to go away, and I think that there's a lot of people that are still left in Iran who are not revolutionaries. That want to have that form of government. They were actually, scared to death when the students took over. They were just, it was an out of control situation, and they were scared. And quite frankly, the world is scared of Iran, and I don't think it's a good place for the world to be. And so I'm very appreciative of what President Trump did, and so he's got a group of guys that I don't think it was just a whim. I think it was very calculated. I think it was very thought out. That's something you don't do by just saying, hey, you just don't pick up the phone and call Pete Hegseth and say, hey, get this done. That's not happening. There's so much intelligence involved, and
I would say so.
They did precision strikes on those things. You know what that entails? Somebody feet on the ground pretty close to the facility knowing exactly where that thing went. So you think about the intelligence infrastructure that's involved and all those kinds of things.
Pretty amazing. Really.
Yeah, it is super amazing. So anyway, I've been running on and on and on, and maybe somebody want to call in and talk about it or so.
Yeah, the phone line is 766-9393. I was listening to a guy. This may be slightly changing the subject a little bit, but it'll lead back into this. I was listening to an old. He was a preacher. He's dead and gone now. It's an old message, and I forget what year this might have been preached. Probably might have been in the 80s when this message was actually preached. But he was talking about the end of World War II. At the end of World War II, he said that that the United States had roughly 4% of the world's population. And he said, I'm not making these numbers up. These are verifiable numbers. He said, we have roughly 4% of the world's population. But we controlled 90+% of the world's economy at that time. And he said there were powers that got together and said, this can't be, that this is a bad thing. And so they began to reinvest in Japan and in Germany. And he said it wasn't too long until we was buying Japan products and German cars. After the of course, he's showing that how this whole thing works. So I was thinking about the power and influence of the economy and who's running the economy of the world. That's
Right.
as far as that goes.
Right.
And it was pretty interesting. He mentioned Sony. He said Sony stood for Standard Oil of New York. So of course, kind of making a joke, but
Yeah,
at the same
exactly.
time, you know, Japan was rebuilt with American money,
That's right.
and so was Germany.
Yep.
And so, if you think about it, like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. So you think about the influence that this country, as young as it is, has had on the world. It's kind of amazing to think about.
Yeah, even today, the United States is the marketplace of the world. That's
Yeah.
why our president can stand up and say, "Look, you either treat us fairly on our trade, or we're going to go up on your tariff." And I don't understand why people are so against that. It's, you know, when you talk about reciprocal tariffs, that means we charge them exactly what they're charging us. You know, it starts on their end. The ball's in their court. You know, if they don't want
Yeah.
high tariffs.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if you've been to, do you ever look for stuff on like AliExpress or anything like that?
I haven't,
It's
no.
like the Chinese Amazon, you know?
No, I haven't looked at that.
And so, they used to find cheap stuff. Of course, most stuff you can get out of China's cheap anyway, but, you used to find some cheap stuff, but now they've got, here's the price and here's the price with the tariff. And so it's a lot higher. And so,
That's funny.
but you know, maybe it'll work out. Hopefully, like the president wants it to, move some of that stuff back on shore. You know,
Yeah.
you sit around and think about the economy that we live in, the world we live in. Why can't we do that here? Why can't we create those jobs here and make those things here? You know, a lot of
Well, we
Ameri-
should.
Yeah,
I
a
mean,
lot of
some
American.
of us think we should anyway.
I agree. In fact, if you take an American brand and you offshore it, you basically kill the brand. I think Craftsman proved that. Craftsman has some great tools over the years. In fact, they were tools that you could hand down to your children throughout the years.
Right.
And they had a lifetime guarantee. And then for the sake of money, they push it overseas and have it made in China. And they were the cheapest tools made. They were horrible.
Yeah.
And no longer did people want to buy them. Now, where's Sears today? They let all their brands do that. Every brand they own,
Well, it's
sort of went the
Sears
same
pretty
fate.
much doesn't exist anymore.
Well, and then even in our own community, you know, Murray, Ohio, started pushing their bicycles to different countries and their lawnmowers to different countries, and the quality went to pieces. In fact, where was I? I was at Home Depot or Lowe's the other day and saw a Murray lawnmower. And I thought, wow, that's pretty weird.
Yeah.
I wonder where they're made at now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they're not made here.
No, they're not made in Lawrenceburg anymore, which is a shame. They could be, because I feel like, you know, for a good American-made product, I don't mind paying a little bit extra for that if that's what it takes.
Well,
And something I can get parts for. And
I guess in the perfect world, if it was made here and the wages are earned here, then you could afford to pay a little more here.
yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it does.
I don't know. The point this minister was making, though, is that if for those of us who believe like you and I believe, you know, this country is being blessed by God because it was founded on Judeo-Christian principles.
Right. I agree with that.
And has grown into what it's grown into as a blessing from God. Now that doesn't mean that I think our country's perfect in
Right.
every way, but at least there was an establishment based on biblical principles
Right.
that to me has caused, and I think also a believing people, praying people,
Yeah.
who wanted freedom.
Right.
And I think the Lord has blessed it.
Well, I was awful proud of the president when he gave his little 4-minute speech after he bombed. He mentioned God in his
He did.
presentation, and I thought, wow, that's
Yeah, he
great
did.
for the president of the United States to do that.
Yeah, I missed a phone call there. I don't know if you were trying to get in and talk to us or not. Sorry. Feel free to call back. 766-9393 is the number while we are live here, and we will talk. Let's see. Maybe somebody.
We don't mind talking about anything.
We don't mind talking about anything. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Hey, good morning. Who are you?
You know who I am. I wanted to throw this out. I did a little research on this morning, and it said that U.S. got most of its imports of oil from Canada, Mexico, and anyway, I don't know where all they are. But I also read that something like 10% of our oil comes they evidently have been going in this direction. But there's also the law of unintended consequences. I was wondering if Keith knows if how it's going to be affected, if it will be affected. I remember back in the 70s, I can't remember what was going on. There was so much going on, but I can remember having to leave an hour early just to get gas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
the lines were so bad.
That's right. I remember
Just
lines.
throw that out, something how it's affecting them or what he's hearing.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Awesome. Yeah, that, the gas and the oil has come up during all this.
Yeah, it probably has a little bit, but what you should do is do some research on OPEC, because most of the oil that even the oil companies that are located in this hemisphere, they are the oil prices are barter, I guess, or I'm trying to think of the word, and I can't think of the word. But anyway, OPEC sets the prices based on availability and production rates, and so even if it's produced locally, so if the oil company is a member of OPEC, then that sets the price of per barrel. So if Iran is contributing 5% or 3% of the overall stream of oil that's coming in, then yeah, you might see a slight increase on that. So, but you know, to see if it's going to have an effect on what we do day to day here, that would be probably how OPEC responds to what's going on there.
Interesting. What is OPEC, for those of us who don't know?
So OPEC is, and I'm trying to, the word I'm trying to think about it, that you know, like De Beers, like when you buy diamonds, De Beers is like the only distributor of diamonds in the world. They set the prices, they set everything.
Yeah.
So if you're a diamond buyer, you buy through De Beers in some way or fashion. Same way with oil. The oil producing nations got together and they created this foundation that sort of sets the market for oil. And that's the best way that I can describe that. So it keeps oil producing nations from flooding the market with oil. And it also, you know, I guess they set contracts on how much oil you need to produce to keep a steady stream coming into the market. So that's really the only way I know how to describe it.
Sure.
So, but that's they do the same thing. Like I said, with diamonds, they do the same thing there too.
I guess almost any major commodity has some type of controlling organization.
That's correct. I would say you're right about that.
You
I'm
got
not
the
really familiar.
you got the beef producers of America. You know, all that kind of stuff. Some, you know, there's some kind of controlling entity to almost anything.
Yeah, you're right.
Economy wise.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, again, those lines are open, 766-9393. We don't mind taking phone calls through this. And I am by no means an expert in any of this. But I am an American citizen and I'm observing and watching what we're doing. And I'm like, okay, why are we doing this? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
Right.
My position before this happened was that, you know, I was like, okay, we're supporting Israel, and as long as Israel can handle it, I say let them handle it. But evidently we wanted to do a little faster damage.
Well, you know, they started barking threats to the United States directly. Even he started even barking threats of assassinating the president and stuff like that. So
Right.
You can't do those things and not expect any type of retaliation or something like that. But I don't think it was retaliation. I think it was just something that it was an opportune time to do away with their ability to make an atomic weapon or a nuclear weapon. And you know, if they were just a month away or 2 months away, you know, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, where do you?
You know, did you let them go ahead and make a few and then bomb the place, or what? So,
I got a text from my friend Randy.
okay.
OPEC. OPEC stands for Organization of Petroleum Exploring Countries, or Exporting Countries, I should say.
There you go.
It's an intergovernmental organization of 13 oil-producing nations that aims to coordinate and unify petroleum policies among its member countries with the goal of stabilizing oil markets.
There you go.
That sounded like a very educated man to me right there. I'm saying this.
Yeah.
Who sent that?
Exactly.
That's my friend Randy. Thank
That's
you.
what I was trying to say.
That's what you were trying to say. That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Oh,
So let's another interesting thing.
okay.
Have you been keeping up with all this AI stuff?
Well, I want to, but I am so intimidated by it that I'm afraid to touch it.
So I've been,
It's like I'll see something I really want to get into that, but I don't even know how.
all right. So I've been in IT my whole life, and my career was built around IT. And so
Yes.
you remember there's some new, I guess. I won't say levels of IT, but they have spurred different different lives, I guess, more than
Yes.
anything else. So you remember back in probably the early 2000s, the cloud was the big, the big buzzword.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be in the cloud or invest in the cloud.
Right.
And so you think, what in the world is the cloud?
Yes.
And so, but now almost everything today is cloud-based.
Right.
Whether you know it or not.
That's right.
And so AI is the same way. Most things today, especially if you use Google or anything like that, most things are AI generated.
Yeah.
So if you go to Google and ask Google a question, actually, I guess the term is we live in an AMA world, ask me anything world, because there's so much information out there now. So whenever you go to Google and you Google something, AI will give you an amalgamation of things that it finds on its archives or on the internet.
Sure.
It will give you an answer based on it. It'll construct an answer. Now there's different types of AI that are now coming out. So you can do Google and it will give you that amalgamation of different. It'll actually create that for you like a sentence or a paragraph of what you're looking for. But if you go to Reddit uses a different type of AI. So Reddit is like a community response. So if you go to Reddit and ask it a question, its AI will generate you an answer of answers.
So it's based on public opinion answers on.
That's right.
It gives you that.
Right. It'll give you like all the people. Like if you say, okay, how do I put a head gasket on a '57 Chevy or something like that? Google's AI will go out and it will key on those words, '57 Chevy, head gasket, or whatever, and it will amalgamate this paragraph for you on how to do that. Whereas Reddit will use its AI engine to say, okay, here's the responses where people said, here's how you put a gasket on a
here's how they.
'57 Chevy.
Okay.
So it's pretty neat how it grows.
Slightly different.
Yeah, and the availability of it is just unbelievable. So I was watching CES, a little show on CES today, which is the Consumer Electronics show that they have in Vegas. And you wouldn't believe the AI-driven technologies that are out there. And what they got this keyboard, and one of the neatest things I saw was they got this keyboard. When you're typing on a keyboard, you have to reach over and grab your mouse.
Yeah.
Well, now you don't. So now the computer knows where you're at in the process. So if it knows that you're fixing to move over and click on this button, so you've got your hands resting on the pad, and AI can determine, and your keyboard will retract, and you've got your touchpad right in front of you automatically. I mean, it's pretty cool. So there's and I guess that's more of a predictive AI type thing. But
That's interesting.
we're going to be in the AI world. We're already there, but we're going to be in it more than we know, and it's going to be subtle. It's going to be like throwing a frog in a pot of water.
Well, you see these, if you browse, the internet or Facebook or anything, you'll see these little advertisements of telling you that if you're in business and you're not using AI, you're behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're already behind, and I'm like, okay, well, where am I behind? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
And so that's where I am. I'm like, okay, what am I missing?
Yeah. So I think one of the coolest things about AI is its ability in video, and I went in one of the schools here in town, and they have an AI camera system in there, and what's neat is that you can tell that camera system, track this person in a red shirt.
Yeah.
And it will follow that person in the red shirt.
Yeah.
Or where they go at
Well,
school, and that's
honestly,
pretty cool.
this camera that we're using
Yeah.
is an AI device.
It is.
Because it picks up on whichever one of us is talking, or both of us, and it'll split the screen, or it does it all on its own. I'm
That's
not
right.
doing it. I'm
Right.
not controlling the camera at all, other than when we talk.
Right.
And it decides who to put the camera on.
Right. Well, there's so much information. I guess AI is a way of getting the information to you. Have you seen one of the? I saw last time I went to Washington D.C. Well, not the last time. In December, I went to Washington D.C. and one of the gentlemen that was on our team had a pair of Ray-Ban glasses with Meta built into them. Have you seen that?
I've heard about them. I haven't seen a pair.
So those glasses are pretty cool. So you can ask Meta anything. It is a form of AI, and so as you're wearing those glasses, you can say, Meta, what's the nearest restaurant? What's the nearest hamburger joint to where I'm standing? You
Yeah.
know, and it will tell you. It's the pretty coolest thing. Or it's got a camera integrated with you, and you can say, Meta, take a picture of where I'm at right now. And it'll do that. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, I'm gonna have to have a pair of those.
Yeah, if you want.
How can we live without that?
Yeah, or you can play your, you can tell it to play your favorite playlist, or
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's almost like I guess it's having your phone built into your glasses.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It's amazing, really. And I'm intrigued by it, and I'm trying to figure out how I can use it to do things that I think I want to do, website-wise.
Okay.
Some things like that. There are some things that we're looking into doing in the real estate world and in the auction world that I want to figure out how to use it.
I don't blame you. And you're probably using it and you don't even know it.
Oh, we are.
So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's being utilized in some of the stuff we're doing, but I guess more of a direct use.
yeah, trying to get a return on your investment or something.
More of a direct
Have
use.
you invested in any AI type devices for auctioneering?
I haven't, and I don't know what they are or what they would be just yet.
Oh,
But there's bound to be something.
right.
I think we've caused some more thinking here. Let's see if we can do this. Hey, good morning.
Yes, I wanted to throw this out. I did 2 serious searches on major issues this morning, elder abuse and child abuse, and I used AI with Google, but you will find if you scroll down to the bottom, they have disclaimers, and they're different disclaimers. It may contain mistakes. Sometimes it'll say this is international information if you don't go ahead and put U.S. in, but it gives you great information like you were talking about a while ago, where to go to legitimate websites. Let's say you're doing research on that, but this is for somebody else. But anyway, the research they're doing, they might want to go to a law website. They might want to go to a business website. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some more legitimate websites that you know about. It gives you a lot of leads.
Right.
I think, yeah, thank you. And medical. When you got something wrong with you, my wife is famous for this.
That's a good part. Let's talk about
My
this.
wife is a diagnosis person online.
Oh yeah.
She can figure out what's wrong with you in just a moment. Of course, she's been telling me what's wrong with me for a while, but go ahead.
No, I mean, do you think doctors, and if we got any doctors listening, maybe they can answer this. Do you think doctors ever get sick of people who have already made their own diagnosis before they walk into the office?
Well, they're going to
simply
have
by
to get used to
Googling
it.
that?
They're going to have to get used to it.
So, I mean, who out there does not Google their symptoms these days?
Yeah,
And,
that's pretty common.
yeah,
It has been for a
absolutely.
while.
Absolutely.
But I find it helpful.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Very good friend of mine. We thought that he was having a stroke. He was slurring his speech and thought we said he's having a stroke. So we Googled it and said, well, you might have got bit by a tick, and that's what it ended up being. He got bit by a tick, and in certain meats cause him to slur his speech.
Really?
I think it activated the alpha gal. Whatever it is in your body, and it's like, wow, that's pretty neat. But you can Google anything.
Yeah, you can. You could, well, I'm
Be
fascinated.
careful what you Google.
Yeah, be careful. But I'm fascinated as to, but it's so helpful too, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, because you kind of, it helps you to really determine how much help you need,
Yeah.
especially in the health deal.
Yeah, so if and she brought up a good point in that conversation. Google has changed their site. So if you ask Google a question, the very top portion of that, you will see an AI generated response. But then you can scroll down and you can see website responses for the same question.
Right.
And so you want more than one source. You know, don't just go take the top answer and say, "Oh, I'm suffering from lymphoma or whatever," and go to the
Right.
doctor.
Right.
You know, you need to scroll down, and if you're going to get your diagnosis from the internet, scroll down and get 2 or 3 opinions there also. You know, so
You can scare yourself to death.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So she made a very good point there of checking yourself.
Well, there's just, so much available to us, technology-wise, that it's hard to even, I mean, I can't imagine now being without it.
Right.
But for so long and so many years, we did do without it.
And we made it just fine.
And we made it just fine.
So-
Have we do you think we've lost some, learning skills by having too much information?
So I agree with that. I don't believe in evolution as far as men came from monkeys and those kind of things.
No.
But I do believe in the evolutionary effect on mankind because, and I think we had this in conversation maybe a couple weeks ago or so.
Right.
You think about people that lived through the Great Depression, the men and women that lived through that. Think about how they worked hard every day, and
Sure.
and somehow they made it without an air conditioner. They made it without ice in the ice
Yeah.
box and things like that.
Yeah.
But now we've become a comfort-based society. I can guarantee you, my dad worked way harder than I work, and my dad's dad probably worked harder than my dad ever worked, and suffered through things.
Same thing.
So if we take it back 5,000 years, and now you got to ask yourself the question, well, how'd they build the pyramids? It's because they didn't have lazy people back then.
Yeah.
People got up and worked, and they looked at things and said, yeah, that looks like. They didn't say I can't do it. They said, well, that's a pretty big job. We better get started.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think about something that's even a whole lot more recent that was incredibly labor intensive, was the Panama Canal.
Yeah, that's.
Have you ever watched a documentary on that?
It's been a while, but yeah, I've seen stuff.
But
like
it was an incredible, and even the Hoover Dam and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
that was built, the Empire State Building, some of those buildings that
Yeah.
were built with a lot of labor
Yeah.
that we don't even think about
It
today.
can't even happen today. You can't walk around on the Empire State Building without a harness on. Those guys were doing flips up there.
Yeah, yeah. And I forget how many men were actually killed or lost their lives
Yeah.
in not those buildings, but I'm talking about like the Panama Canal and the Hoover Dam, all that.
Yeah.
It just kept going.
Well, I've heard there's nobody buried in the Hoover Dam. That's a
I've heard
wives'
that.
tale. I believe.
I've heard that's a bit too.
So.
But still, the difference in the way that work was accomplished
Yeah.
is so different now.
Yeah, a good day's work has the definition of a hard day's work has changed, I guess.
Yeah. Now there's still people that work hard. Don't get me
Oh,
wrong.
I agree with that 100%.
In fact, I'm going to get a dose of it sometime today. Daniel and I've got some outside chores that got to be done, and
It's gonna be hot.
And it's going to be hot.
Yeah.
Now I won't be right in the heat of the day because we just don't have, and so we can put it off. But
Yeah.
late evening or something like that. But it's still going to be hot. Be good for us though.
I've been walking in the afternoons, and when the sun goes down, at that time where the
Yeah.
sun is, you've got about a 45-minute range there. I've been walking 2 miles, and it's not too bad,
Yeah.
once the sun goes down.
It's good for us. It's good
Yeah.
for you to get out. Which brings me to another. We have some Amish friends in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they live in the way that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have some Amish friends' family that had a younger member of their family that left the Amish, and he's now selling cars.
Wow.
It's true.
What a
true,
change.
true story. Selling cars,
What a change.
and some people that may be listening may know exactly what I'm talking about. But he has a Facebook presence, it's almost comical to watch. He put out his own cap, and he's promoting this cap of his, and he shows his Amish hat. This is my old Amish hat, he said, but I've upgraded, and he's got a regular like trucker's cap, and it says, I think it says from buggies to automobiles or something, and anyway, it's pretty cool. But he's promoting that and selling his cars. I think about trying to recruit him to sell real estate. He needs to do that.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to look him up. That interests me.
I'll show you. It's Pete Yoder. He's got a Facebook page.
He sounds like he's from here.
He is from here.
Oh, okay. He is from here. Okay.
He is from here.
So,
yeah, he's from here.
okay.
Yeah, I believe he sells cars up in Columbia.
Oh, okay. Good
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, but interesting to watch how he's transitioned.
Well, I'm going to have to look him up.
It is 8:53. Keith Durham's in the house with me, and we've talked a little bit on current events and just anything and everything. Appreciate you coming in this morning. Had a good time. Of course, later in the week, you'll be back.
That's right.
You'll be back Thursday, good Lord willing, and we'll have the Quick Mart Hour on then. Now, tomorrow I've got my buddy Jacob Dale. He'll be in. He and I have been having some interesting conversations. He will put more of a biblical point of view. Of course, you and I both have a biblical worldview.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about that some. For those of us who believe like we believe, we know that the Lord's in charge of all this anyway. But still, we like to chime in and give our opinions. But still,
that's the good part about having a microphone.
But still, I found something though. I shared this with Keith earlier, in a comical sort of way. I don't know if I said this on the air or not. Can't remember, but I do know I told you this earlier. That found this. Someone posted this on Facebook. It says we didn't bomb Iran.
Oh, we didn't?
We didn't bomb Iran.
Okay.
No. What this was a mostly peaceful protest against their nuclear facilities.
By definition, that's exactly right.
This was a mostly peaceful. And I will say this, and I kind of got somewhat tickled at President Trump's post after he posted his statement or put out a press release. That's what, put out a press release. And it was posted, as well as doing the live, press release, whatever he did. But he went through what they did, and as and talked about what an execution, how well it was executed by the military and the Air Force, and how precision it was, and how flawless the effort was, and that they took out those and bombed those facilities, those nuclear facilities. And then he said, now it's time for peace.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought that was I was like, okay. So, but he's called for peace throughout. And there was some old video of him from back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Where he was saying even then that we could not allow Iran to have nuclear weapons.
That's right.
Long before he was ever president.
Yeah, they've been a menace for half a century.
So interesting stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Interesting stuff. Well, tell me what you're going to do today. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you about.
Okay.
You and I have a project.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You and I have a venture together.
We do.
And you are the most of it. You're the head honcho. I got us into it, but I've left you with it.
Well, we've already made some money.
Have we?
Yeah.
I plunged us into this deal, but I gave it to you. So what's happening?
So not a lot is happening, and if people wonder what we're talking about, we're in a joint venture on a jukebox.
On the jukebox.
And it's full of records.
Is it full of records?
Absolutely.
Is it got some good ones?
There's some records in there in the. Actually, there's some like 80s and early 90s records in there. I didn't know they still made records back in those days.
I was hoping it'd be some older stuff.
There might be. I didn't look at all of them. I got the keys in. I got online and ordered keys. There's a key to the back, and then there's a key to the cash box on it.
Oh, okay.
And so there was $5 and a dime in the cash box.
Yay! All right. Well, this happened at one of our auctions, recent auctions. There was a Wurlitzer jukebox.
Yeah.
And I ended up buying it, and I thought, and I bought it specifically because I knew that Keith could probably make it work. So I plunged you into it.
Well, we're going to try to make it work. It's in pretty bad shape.
It's in bad shape.
Yeah, it's in bad shape. It's sitting in that basement for a long time, I guess.
Yeah, it did.
And
Oh well.
there's a lot of moving parts in a jukebox like that. It's not like a modern jukebox where you can play MP3s and stuff like that. There's every single record has a set of moving parts that'll move that record up into place to be picked up and put on the spindle. So a lot of moving parts there.
Oh, this don't sound good. This don't sound good. We may be in the hole on this one.
So
Oh well.
we'll try and if we can just get it playing, then I'll give it to you to offload it.
All right. We can just get it playing. That's what we gotta do. That's what we gotta do. Well, we got about a minute to kill, old buddy.
Okay.
And while we're talking, you want to give us any insight on anything happening at the stores?
There's a lot of things going on at the stores. We just started building a brand new store down in Florence, Alabama. So if you go by Quick Mart number 29, the new number 29 is coming up behind it.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time there last week, and so we're anxious to get that one going. We've also we want to get another one going in Muscle Shoals this year, and so we're working with the city and the state down there to get that one going. So there's a lot of new things happening at Quick Mart.
Growing well.
Not counting all the good biscuits and food that you can get there.
Perfect. Well, I'll take a moment to promote an auction.
Sure.
We got this coming Saturday, we'll be at 3927 Granddaddy Road, selling for the estate of Billy Joe Williams. We got a really nice brick home, and right at 4 acres, tractors, equipment, tools, guns, and household goods. This is going to be a good one. We're going to bring a buddy because we'll probably run 2 auction rings. There's a lot of stuff, and you want to get there early. Bring your chairs, and we'll have a good time. Let's talk to one more person before we have to go. Okay?
Yeah.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Jim,
Yes.
you and Keith have had one of the best shows this morning I've heard in a long time. It's going to be a weekly thing of current events.
Well, I would love it. If I can talk him into it, we'll do it.
Y'all knock it out of the ballpark.
I just said everything I know, Lanny, so next week would just be a repeat of this week.
Learned a lot more this week.
All right. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up. We got to get out of here.
All right.
See you, man.
Lanny enjoyed it. That's good.
Well, we had one good comment anyway. Didn't we?
To say what the